Hello and welcome to this week's reading vlog. I read a total of this many books this week. So this week I pretty much just focused on all of the library books that I had to return because of last week's Who Wrecked It Better challenge. There were a lot of library books just sitting here and getting close to having to be returned. So I am just going through whatever I had just grabbed from the shelves from the library. And I'm hoping there's some really great ones in there, but some of them were just literally based on covers. So I do it to myself. I complain that I'm not getting a lot of 5-star books, but I am quite spontaneous in my selection sometimes, especially when it comes to library books, because that's where I read all of my books from. So some I do request and reserve, and those are ones that probably have a better chance of being a 5-star because I've read the blurb, I've heard people talk about them, and their premises sounded fascinating and up my alley. There are those in there, but most of them were just, let's have a browse and just grab whatever catches our eye today like a magpie. But yeah, let's have a look at how I went this week.
Oh boy. Chloe, please stop. It's horrible. No.
Hello. So I've decided that I am going to be doing a 24-hour readathon. Because I have been having issues with my Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition that affects my thyroid. My antibodies are extremely high. I'm not responding to the medication. And so for me, something that I have done in the past to get my antibody levels into remission status, which with my lab reports are less than 15 for both of them, I do 3-day water fasts. They immediately drop my antibodies. So every time I've done a 3-day, within a few weeks after, I'll get a blood test done and they're always in remission levels. And that means for me that I'm also not symptomatic. So all of the symptoms and issues that come up when I am hypothyroid go away. I don't know if I can do 3 days. It is really difficult. I think the more that you've done these kind of things, the harder it is to do them again in the future. I'm aiming for at least 48 hours. I think any amount is going to have a reduction in my antibodies. Obviously, if I can make it to the 72, I know for sure that I will get way down low because I have done it a handful of times during the course of my condition and it's worked every single time that I've done it. So to help me get through these 48/72 hours of water fasting, I just want to say that this is something that I have done under the supervision of my doctor. It's something I am now quite adept and skilled in. Once again, I'm doing this with my doctor's knowledge. So it's not something to be taken lightly. To help me get through this time, because I struggle, guys. I love food. I find a lot of pleasure in eating. I don't like being hungry. I hate restriction in that way. It also makes me absolutely freezing. I get so cold from doing it. So it's not a pleasant experience, and it's only when I do out of necessity because it, has saved me from my condition progressing. With Hashimoto's, it can progress to thyroid cancer, and in that case, the removal of your thyroid, all of those conditions. And every time I've gotten to the point where I'm tipping into that area, I have done this. Once again, it was on the recommendation with my doctor. It is a tool in my arsenal that is sort of like the last resort, and that's why I am doing it. So to help me get through, I thought I'm going to be staying home because I have no energy when I do these things. I am lightweight. I pretty much just lie down all day. When I fast, I have zero energy. Some people get like this burst of energy. I know a lot of people when they go into ketosis, it happens for them. Every time I've done these fasts, it's been the opposite. I'm cold and I am fatigued and I have headaches and I just can't do anything. I can't leave my house. So I'll be staying home and to occupy myself, because I do have to keep myself mentally occupied without overexerting myself, because that's another thing. Like, I can't overexert myself during these times because I'm using all my willpower to fast. I'm going to read. So I've got a stack of books and I thought, let's just turn this into a 24-hour readathon, maybe even longer. I know that these ones I definitely am going to read because I have to go back to the library. So I thought I'd just show you so you can see what I'm going to get started with. So the first book I let my cat decide, and she sort of narrowed them down, and I'm just going to put the video up here of the one she chose. And that is here, The Witches of Moonshine Manor, Why We Were Taught to Fear Witches and Not the Men Who Burned Them. So I'll be starting the readathon with this book. I also have Everything is Okay, Wild Embers, which is a book of poetry. The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. Witch by Finbar Hawkins. Battle of the Linguist Mages by Scott O'Moore. And The Wonder Within by Dr. Michelle Woodhouse. So I do like to choose a few books, okay, Sylvie, of different genres when I do these things to keep it interesting. I've still got another 5 library books sitting on my desk, so there's a good chance I might get through all of these and then want to read some more. I thought I'd just start with those. I'm not going to start the timer yet. I'm going to wait until the evening. I'm actually going to start it when I go to bed because I've got some other things I need to do around the house. I'm also currently listening to this book right here. So I've just started that now that I've finished my library thing versus Goodreads challenge. And this is basically a Greek mythology story. And so far I'm actually enjoying it. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's a bit violent and grim, but it's a fantasy book so I can handle it. So I'll be listening to that as well. But I'll let you know once I've started the timer for this actual challenge. We'll see how we go. So expect to see me looking quite haggard and drawn over the next days. Don't worry, I'm fine. And I always stop. It's one of those things. If I don't push myself to my limits with these things, you need to listen to your body. And there's been times when I've had obviously tried to do the 3 days for my condition and sometimes I've only made it 23 hours and I've had to stop. I've become too faint or too dizzy. I do take electrolytes while I do this too. So even though it's a water fast, I do make sure to have my salt, potassium and magnesium. It's really important and it helps me to stay well. But once again, if it becomes too stressful, that's sort of counterintuitive. It increases my cortisol levels and that's never a good thing for me. But I'm just, like I said, doing this with love towards myself and seeing how I do. Any little bit is better than nothing in reducing the inflammation and the antibodies. It helps give my thyroid a chance to recover and hopefully heal. So like I said, also everyone manages their illnesses differently. This is what's worked for me. And following this though, will have to make some lifestyle changes. It's one of those things that will help. So for me, for a short period of time, I will omit things like gluten, which can trigger the production of more antibodies, which is what it does for me. So I will have to do those things too. Yeah, if I can do the 3 days, that means it's already puts it straight into remission, and that just gives me a massive head start on recovery and healing my thyroid in the meantime. But we'll see how we go.
Can anyone else relate? But I have never once been able to put on a pair of sheer leggings without lathering them. Not once. Pretty much sheer leggings are a one-time use for me, and that's why I try it like twice a year. I'm like, maybe this will be the time, but I can't do it, guys. And I'm so careful. I roll them up, but I lather every goddamn time. If someone knows of a brand perhaps that is really resistant to lathering, please let me know, because I would love to wear sheers. I just can't seem to do it without ripping them.
Poor fool isn't to know that his raging erection was entirely Jezebel's work, and that she regretted the help almost instantly. Certain men, when gifted a reliably rock-hard member, became like little boys with sticks. Nigel, unfortunately, turned out to be one of them. He was all poke and no stroke, his own pleasure being the entire point of his pointy end, which had left Jezebel most unfulfilled.
Do I have yesterday's makeup smudged on my face? Probably, my dudes, probably. I have finished though, Witches of Moonshine Manor, and this took me 2 hours and 27 minutes to read. Kitties. I decided to give this 3 stars. So this is about a group of octogenarian witches who live in this manor that also doubles as a distillery for the brew that they make. They are late on their mortgage payments, and the angry men in the town come with their pitchforks to try and evict the witches from their God-fearing town. It also includes, and I'm going to quote, a feisty TikToker who wants to smash the patriarchy. So a lot of people were upset about the 80-year-olds having a lot of sex. That didn't bother me whatsoever. The part that I found cringy was the 15-year-old and the way they were written. It just sounds like a how do you do, fellow kids? Person trying to write a 15-year-old. So yeah, I just found a lot of Persephone's vernacular and stuff just not accurate. I know I don't have a 15-year-old, but I do have an 11-year-old. And yep, I just didn't vibe with that representation. I didn't really feel like it was necessary. She's kind of out of place. I was vibing more with the, Golden Girls energy. Sorry for the continual changes in thing, but my arms, I can't hold up thick books anymore. I don't know if anyone else is the same, but I was reading in bed obviously, and I'm holding up that thick tome and my elbows are killing me. So I might have to switch to some ebooks at some point, because I just don't have the elbow power. So in this book, it's also about a heist that these ladies pulled off in their 50s, and their race against the clock to pay back the loan, keep their house, and keep back the angry patriarchy. This book was okay. The writing wasn't amazing. This suffered from too many POVs. It's just too many. There's too many, man. In the whole start of the book, each character has obviously their POV, so you can learn about them. And I'm just like, is this what we're going to do? We're just going to keep going, cycling through this absolute cast of characters? Yes, we are. Really not a big fan of multiple POVs, and there was that. The way it wrapped up, yeah, it was okay. In the Coven, members are queer, there's trans and bi-rep and all that sort of jazz. It's wunderbar. I like to see it. And there's also a familiar, Ravencrow, that speaks, and so I absolutely love that Ravencrow, definitely. I think its name was Widget. Didn't love that because it just reminds me of the TV show Widget the World Watcher. Widget the World Watcher. So yeah, the book wrapped up in a satisfactory manner. I did somewhat enjoy it. It's a 3-star book, nothing really wrong with it, but it wasn't amazing. So, it's very, very heavy on the female rage vibes. I'm not mad. I'm not even mad about it, It's definitely something I enjoy. So yeah, this was this one. I have listened to Daughter of Darkness quite a bit. It's being dragged out a bit too much. I'm just not a fan of like length. If it's a standalone, okay. But sometimes I just feel like there's a lot of fat that they can cut. Like there's a lot of trimming that could be done that would enhance the flow of the story and the enjoyment of it. It doesn't need to be padded out so thick. I don't think people are like, oh, wow, I'm not going to get my money's worth unless it's 500 pages long. No, like I said, I've read short stories that are freaking phenomenal and stay with me forever. So it's just about the quality, not the quantity. But yeah, I'll touch base with you after I've read my next book, which I'm probably going to do in here. So, what is there to get up for, my dudes? It's not like I'm getting up for breakfast, so I may as well just stay here. Hello. So I just finished reading Everything is Okay. It took me 14 minutes to read this. It's very easy to read. Obviously, there's not a lot of text. It's mostly illustrations. The book centers around depression and anxiety. It's mostly done in black and white or grayscale. And then there'll be pops of color when she sort of changes the tone in which she speaks to herself. So kindness or words of advice or like a positive message, those bits will be in color. So it was nice to see those bits. The first half of the book is just her in her depression and anxiety. So a lot of the inner critical self-dialogue is shown, the sort of feeling of hopelessness and despair and just not wanting to exist anymore. And then her loved one, who is very supportive, recommends that she go to therapy, and with the help of therapy and the support of the people that love her, she sort of learns techniques in how to deal with her anxiety and depression, and also self-care and how to advocate for herself and enforce her boundaries and do what's best for her. It's pretty much similar to Debbie's other books. I wouldn't say it's like added a lot more than the other books that I read of hers, so pretty much of the same vein. What would I give it? I'm not going to rate this one, but if I were to rate it, probably 3.5 stars. So that was Everything is Okay. The next book that I'm going to pick up is another short one. That was a great catch. A poetry book, because after this I am going to force myself out of bed to get dressed and have a cup of tea. I just finished reading Wild Embers by Nikita Gill. This took me 20 minutes to read. It is a book of poetry. The poems mostly center around the themes of feminism, grief, love, loss, trauma, fairy tales. So she does write poems about Disney princesses and the women from Greek mythology, and also against the abuse and oppression of women by men. So I did enjoy it. I don't rate poetry. Can't rate it, man. I did enjoy it. Nikita Gill is a poet I like. This wasn't amazing, but it was still a decent read. Okay, so I just read Witch. It took me about 35 minutes to read it. It's a very fast read. The font is big and it's all dialogue. It is meant to be set in the 17th century, so the language is quite dated. Some people probably won't like that. The book centers around two sisters whose mother is brutally murdered in front of them for being a witch, and the eldest wants to seek her vengeance upon the men who murdered her. I'm giving it 2 stars. It just really doesn't have a lot of substance. It's very fast paced. The girls set out immediately. They are betrayed by certain people, and the person they're betrayed by I absolutely hated. You don't really understand why that person betrayed them either. It's not clear. A lot of things are not made clear because of the way it's written, and that it's just dialogue and one thing to the next to the next. So nothing's really left to be expanded upon or to be understood. It is just literally a fast-paced book about a young girl killing the people that killed her mother. And then it sort of finishes. Is there actual magic in this? Yes, there is. But yeah, I didn't really care for it. I felt for the younger sister Dilly, but I didn't really like Evie at all. And I didn't really like the book. So 2 stars is probably generous, to be honest with you. It's probably more around a 1.5 star, just because, like I said, there's no character development. The plot is just so fast. There's nothing really expanded upon. You're not understanding why certain things have happened. Forget world building, like there is none, obviously, besides it being set in the 17th century. Thanks to the language. So yeah, this was not for me. I am going to go and figure out what I'm going to read next. I've still been listening quite a lot to Daughter of Darkness, which is the Greek mythological book. I think I have around 18 hours left, so I'm obviously speeding along, but that's because I read a few of the books that I read were very itty bitty and took no time at all to read. But hello Sylvie. Hey, so the next book I'm going to read is The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. I have no idea what it's about. I just grabbed it off a shelf. It's a smaller book. I'm hoping to bust it out before it gets dark because I don't like reading physical books at night because my house's lights are all blue light. And I'd like to switch to my e-reader in night mode in bed. So hopefully I get it finished, but this is the next one I'm reading. Hello, I read Book of Delights by Ross Gay. I read it in around 30 minutes. I ended up speed reading it after like the first quarter. So I read the first quarter regular speed and then I'm like, I'm going to speed read it because this wasn't really my jam. I didn't like the writing style. This book is basically a year in the author's life where they jot down the delights as they live their life. For instance, there might be ones on infinity as a concept. Here we've got spread the sweetness of love, some stupid shit, bird feeding, just whatever, hickories, whatever epiphanies they have or thoughts they have about life in general and things that they tend to take pleasure in. Yeah, because I didn't like the writing style, which felt very, as you can see, I did not beat the light. So the writing style is this really informal, kind of not so serious, jokey, a little extra, like exuberant. So it just, I don't know, it felt kind of odd. I didn't vibe with it. And the way that he expanded upon his thoughts and concepts and ideas were a little convoluted and not that easy to read. He's sort of just having like a stream of consciousness kind of thing. And yeah, that's obviously a glimpse into how his brain works. There was one that I liked the most. It's the one I put in the video. I think it was about human joy. And that was probably my favorite out of all of them. But a lot of them I just didn't resonate with. I couldn't relate to a lot of the stuff. He is a middle-aged black man living in America. And obviously I don't really, I'm not living that existence. So a lot of this, yeah, was just him and his life and his thoughts. And because we varied, there wasn't a lot of like commonality, common ground in terms of like the general human experience. It was more like Ross Gay's very specific human experience. So it was okay. I'm going to give it 3 stars. It was fine. I didn't really get a lot from it. I didn't love it. And I did end up speed reading it. I just wanted to finish and I wanted to see, is there anything else that's going to stick out? And nothing really stuck out to me. So that was The Book of Delights. So it's now 6 p.m. in the evening. I am down to 16 hours for my readathon from 24. So yeah, I've done 8 hours of reading / listening to an audiobook. I am going to get ready for bed and hop into bed and do some reading on my e-reader. I'll let you know what I'm going to read once I'm nestled in my little bed. I am almost at 24 hours my water fast. It was very difficult for me today. I kept trying to reason out of doing it. My brain was like, well, you've done enough, it's okay, just eat something small, it won't matter. And then I had to keep reminding myself the reason. I'm like, hey man, you're getting really close to that thyroid removal stage and we don't want that. We don't want to do that. So
suck it up, princess, and get through it at least for today. That's what I promised myself. I'm like, okay, Chanel, you don't have to do the 72, just get through today and you can reassess tomorrow. I think the first day for me is always the bloody hardest because you have the ghrelin spikes because you're used to eating at a certain time. And I'm a creature of habit and I eat at certain times. So it's like this, like you're okay and then you're not okay. But the reading has helped immensely, actually. This has been one of the easiest. And the fact that I've been on my own, no kids, no one around, just me and my cats, it's a lot easier just to focus and get through it. But I'm going to see how I feel tomorrow and take it from there. Hello, so I am deciding to read The Magician's Daughter. I currently have 14 and a half hours left to go of my 24-hour readathon. I might bump it up more. I don't know. We're going to see how I go tomorrow, if I break my fast or not. But yeah, I'm just going to read in bed until it's time to sleep. And then tomorrow I'll switch back to my physical books.
Hello. Hello. Good morning. So last night I did stay up to read The Magician's Daughter and I finished it. And it took me about just under 2 hours to finish it. So the book is about a 17-year-old orphan girl who is basically adopted by this magician and his familiar who's a rabbit. The magician's ex-girlfriend is also in it, and then there's a council, and the council are the bad guys in this, according to the magician. So it's sort of like, is the magician the bad guy or is the council the bad guy? Anywho, they live on a magical hidden island off the coast of Ireland, and it's also kind of set in London where the council is. So the book itself has very cozy, atmospheric vibes. It is very slow though, and it's not just the pacing. The book has a lot of stuff in it, like torture and killing and maiming and demonic bone birds who like to grab young girls. But even with all of that, it just didn't feel urgent. There was no like urgency to it. There was no real threat and looming danger, even though there was. Things were happening. Yeah, I just didn't get any sort of sense of that. So it was fine. I'm giving it 3 stars, but even though stuff happens, it's like it doesn't happen. It's an illusion. I can't explain it. I think maybe it's just the writing just didn't hit. I don't know, but it was just a bit humdrum, I guess. In this world, magic is sort of fading and the council is hoarding it, and they're on a quest to sort of bring magic back to the world. There are talk of the Tuatha De Danann. I never know how to pronounce that. You know, the Fae. Yeah, I didn't love it. So it was okay. That was The Magician. The Daughter. I'm about to finish Daughter of Darkness, so I'll let you know how that goes.
I finished listening to Daughter of Darkness. So this is basically a Greek mythology book with a dodgy Greek dude who wants his dead wife brought back from Hades, and he doesn't care how many soul severers die to do it. So you've got the main character Dana, who's a soul severer, and basically they're sworn to the god Hades and they perform like death rites. And they're indentured servants, basically. They are taken as children when the mark appears on their forehead, and they have to work their debt off, and not one of them ever seems to be able to actually work their debt off. They die before their debts are repaid. So you follow a group of them, it's a group, into Hades to find the dead wife. And look, it suffered from pacing. It was just way longer than it needed to be. If it had been cut down, it would have been so much more entertaining and thrilling and exciting. It was just drawn out too long, so that was a downside. I absolutely hated Chrysaea, I can't remember what her name was, but couldn't stand her from the beginning. And the love interest, so I think there's going to be like 2. And you've got one of them who she's known a long time. I'm sorry, but I'm not shipping that romantic relationship because this dude did absolutely atrocious things to her, horrid things, that I don't really think she should even forgive, let alone start a relationship with him after he's done them. He's just not redeemable to me, so I hated that aspect. There's another person who I knew straight away who they were. I like them. I've always liked them in Greek mythology in general. With Hades in this one, they did do a bit of a intersex thing where Hades likes to present as both male and female, which cool. Yes, I agree that the gods, like to do that. Zeus sometimes like to become an animal. So it's not just, to sex into species. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It could have been better. It is quite brutal and violent. Would I continue with the series? No, I'm giving it 3.75 stars. But yeah, I just don't need to continue on. I sort of feel like I'm done with it. So it still was nice to listen to. It was entertaining, well voiced. I'm now listening to Amina Al-Sharafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I can't remember the name. This is interesting, isn't it? I'm glad I'm listening to the audiobook because it's easier when obviously the narrator chimes in. The way that this is formatted, everyone knows now it's sort of like talking to you, directly to you. The narrator's talking directly to you. Which I don't know if that's working for me. I can see that they're trying to make something interesting and different, but it does keep taking you out of the story. So I don't love the narration parts, to be honest with you, but I do like the main character. She seems pretty cool. She feels younger than she is. She's supposed to be a bit more mature age, and she has a child, which is sweet. She sounds just a little juvenile, but I'm interested so far. So I'm listening to that, and I will be picking up a book later after I've had some tea. I am definitely just doing the 24, and I was like, maybe I'll do it longer. No. Okay, so the next book I'm reading is Flying Witch by Chihiro Ishizuka. I think it's a manga and it's about a witch. So easy reading, so time to get a headache. So I just finished reading Flying Witch and I'll show you some of the illustrations. It's about a novice witch who takes her black cat with her to stay with her cousins in a rural area to complete her witch's training. This is just not for me. So I'm not going to read it. But yeah, there's nothing in here for me in terms of story, plot-wise, dialogue, just writing, nothing. So it was fine. It was very, very fast read. I read it in like less than 15 minutes. Yeah, not for me. The next book I'm picking up is a non-fiction called The Wonder Within, Heart-Led Playbook for the Anxious, Stressed Out, and Burnt Out. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I finished The Wonder Within, which is a heart-led playbook for the anxious, stressed, and burnt out. So basically it's written by an integrative GP, which is a doctor who has their regular qualifications in terms of Western medicine, but they implement holistic practices. So that could be anything from traditional Chinese medicine to Ayurveda to breathwork, whatever else is considered in the holistic umbrella. The writing isn't great, guys. It's very colloquial, it's not polished, it's not refined. This is mostly a book about what you would read about in holistic things. So yoga, meditation, breath work, nutrition, therapy, all those sorts of things that are considered, like natural health practices. So it's just filled with those. It's very easy to read because of the way it's formatted. The author puts a lot of her own experiences with burnout in here. It's okay. I'm giving it 3 stars. I didn't hate it, but it's not really amazing. It's like if you haven't had any exposure to practices like meditation, yoga, breathwork, physical movement, Shinrin Yoku, all those sorts of things, then I guess this will be helpful for you. But yeah, I don't love the way it's written. Unfortunately, it just doesn't come off as really professional, or yeah, it's a little too pedestrian for me. But that was that one. This dude, Battle of the Linguist Mages. I think I've got like either about 9 hours left to go. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. I'm probably going to be doing mostly audiobook after this because my brain's starting to shut down. Okay, my dudes, after 20 pages of this, I'm done. I cannot continue any longer. This is not my jam. It's about, what does it even say? It's about a queen of a medieval rave-themed VR game and how she's the ideal candidate to learn the secret of power morphine. It's just, it's meant to be set in modern day Los Angeles. The main character's voice is really annoying. She is so hyper and arrogant and out of touch with everything except what she's doing. She's a gamer, so it's very heavy on that kind of lingo and terminology, and it's basically just like, yeah, it's also interspersed with EDM and gaming. That's pretty much what this book is, with a very weird lingo that I don't enjoy reading and is not fun. It is just so bizarre. I'm going to read some so you can understand the way it's written, because I've never read anything like this and I don't wish to ever again. In the game, the unwashed rabble clamours to join my raiding parties, and I bestow the favour of my enlightened company with a whimsical and capricious air. My live streams attract countless voyeurs seeking not simply gameplay tips, but also my effervescent commentary. When I'm not rescuing the realm from imminent opacity, I'm also a core moderator on the Sparkle forums, a principal editor on the Sparkle wiki, and publisher of the imminent email newsletter, the Sparkle Digest. I am an esteemed expert in Sparkle Dungeon lore, gathering knowledge via repeated playthroughs of intricate scenarios in order to learn the boundaries of the realm, the traits of its allies and enemies, the entirety of possible responses a game might offer when pushed to its limits. Indeed, the Sparkle Wiki originated as my personal game diary, which I published to great acclaim. I then enhanced it over many months and distributed it for the edification of those who would follow in my gem-encrusted footsteps. The whole book is like that. The whole book. It's too much. It's too much, bruh. I think you need to take drugs to be able to read this. I'm DNFing it. I went and read the reviews too, and so many people are like, what the fuck, bruh? So it's not for me. I think it's a very niche book. You've got to really be into that. But no, that's a hard pass. I'm like, I'm not going to even push myself to 50 pages. It's like that the whole way through. So no. So these are the other library books I currently have in my possession. A lot of them are non-fiction. Which I don't think my brain deal with, but the only fiction I have is The Atlas 6, and I'm saving my e-reader for nighttime. So I think I'm gonna go with this one, Enchantment, because it's like a really pretty cover, and I know I've already read a book about enchantment that's non-fiction. I didn't like it, but I'm gonna give this one a go and see how it is. Hello, so I've just finished reading Enchantment by Katherine May. I really enjoyed this. The author splits it into 4 segments of earth, water, fire, and air. My favourite was probably earth. She does it well in how she describes certain things in life that have a sense of wonder, have magic in the mundane, or that enchantment that we're always looking for. I really enjoyed it. The writing is flowery, but it was in a way that I liked. There was this one moment where she talks about hierophany, and I had actually never heard of that before. And basically hierophany is when you make an object sacred. So that can be mountains, rivers, trees, bread, a ring. And I really liked the aspect of that. There were so many wonderful little sentences or paragraphs or ways of looking at things that I really enjoyed. But most of all, I miss the sense of worship that comes when I get into the sea. I miss the feeling that I am entering a vast cathedral, and rather than sitting in its dry pews, that I am merging with it. I miss how, when I feel the pull of the tides, I am also feeling the pull of the whole world, of the moon and the sun, that I am part of a chain of interconnection that crosses galaxies. It shifts your perspective and allows you to see things in that sort of new childlike way. Something that we kind of need to hold on to a little more, that childlike sense of wonder and awe, because it just makes the world so much more vibrant and fulfilling. I'm actually going to go now and take a break and go outside, cloud gaze, and go and touch all my little plants in the garden. That sounds really weird. But it's made me want to go outside and connect with nature, and to just, look at the rainbows that are scattered across my rooms from the sun catches and all those little things, the steam coming off my tea. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's definitely through her lens and what brings her enchantment, and also being a mother to a child. Something that, I feel like the current generation of children, my children included, are sort of losing that childlike wonder and awe, because of the nature of our world in terms of it being so digital and online. They're just really reticent to do anything but go on their screens. They're constantly asking me for more screen time, more screen time. And in the moments they're not on their screens, there's very little play involved unless I initiate it, unless I point things out, and I have to sort of coddle them and coerce them and coax them into doing things that just came naturally to me as a child. I really enjoyed this book, so yay. So I just read The Girl from the Sea, which is a graphic novel, YA, and it's basically a coming of age, coming out story of a young girl who falls in love with a female Selkie, and sort of also about friendship and family as well. Her mother was fantastic. She's also going through a divorce. So it was a lot of things in one little graphic novel. I love the illustrations and I thought it was great. It says a lot in such a little amount of time, and for a graphic novel, I'd probably give it 4.5 stars. It was really great. I just read Everyone is Tulip, which is another graphic novel for teens, and it's supposed to be about the life in a woman who goes from obscurity to fame thanks to a viral video that she partakes in, some weird arty thing where she just says everyone is tulip, and it's sort of how that affects her life and her friendships. Yeah, I like the illustration style, lovely graphics, but this book, I don't even understand the point that it was trying to make, and it was just a whole lot of nothing. You don't like Becca, the main character. They've got some other women of color as side characters, but I'm not even sure what they're doing with them. It was just a whole bunch of nothing. So this one wasn't for me. If I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it 2.5, and that's pretty much all going to the illustration. So that was that. So now I think I'm just going to listen to Amina Al-Sarafi, and in bed I'll pick something up on my e-reader. But I think I am going to break my fast. It's been 48 hours and I'm done. I'm done. So I could go. I actually could push it to tomorrow, but then my kids are coming home tomorrow, and if I fast overnight, in the morning I'm going to be absolutely dog shit. I will be useless, and it will take me a while to get my strength back, and I just want to go back to my regularly scheduled program. I want to eat breakfast and lunch and dinner and all that stuff. I'll obviously make a few more conscious choices of what I'm putting into my body. For the meantime, I do tend to sometimes eat a lot of processed foods and fast food. That's the first level of self-care that I let go of, is how nutritious are my meals. So I'm going to make a bit more an effort. But yeah, I'm going to break my fast with a cup of collagen tea and some strawberries from my garden. Okay, so last night I finished listening to The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Definitely preferred listening to it because there was a very clear distinction with the narrator and Amina. I don't love that angle though. It was jarring. It did take me out of the story and I didn't feel like it was necessary. The book itself also too long, my friends. Could have been cut down, absolutely, especially since it's almost 500 pages long. The book is about a middle-aged mother who used to be a pirate, but once a pirate, always a pirate. And even though she thought she'd hung up her boots for good, the money's too good, my friends. So she comes out of retirement for the last heist, the last gig, that's going to set her up and her daughter for the rest of their lives. Along the way, she's back with her crew, she's on her ship, she meets up with her ex-demon lover. Lots of things abound. It's lots of adventure, lots of battles, lots of mayhem and monsters. Okay, so I had to change locations because the gutter people were really loud. The people doing my gutters. Didn't like the narration style, but the twist with who the narrator was, I thought that was cool. Hello. I like the fact that Amina was cussing and crude and crass. I enjoy that. Oh, my baby. Hi, come here, come say hello. Don't put your butt don't put your butt in the air like you just don't care. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I still think it was way too long. I'm upset that it's not a standalone. So it continues and obviously she's going to go on more adventures because of the way it ended, but I wish it hadn't been that way. I would have loved it to be a standalone or a duology at most. We'll see. I like Raksh. I can't remember how to say his name. Yeah, he's cool. I don't agree with the fact that she is sort of keeping him in the dark. I think if she was to be honest, she could help her daughter more. I think she's setting herself up for some dodgy stuff with her kids, you know, because they both are unaware of how things are going to affect the daughter as she grows. So that's my only annoyance. Obviously, he is a very, I won't even say morally grey, like he's darker. He's on the darker side of grey than the lighter side, let's just say. And that's great because he's a demon. We still don't know really what he is, but he's an agent of chaos, of discord. So yeah, he doesn't really have humanity, but obviously he's got a fondness for Amina. I think that's all you can hope, is just a fondness. And maybe his selfishness will extend to Amina as well, and Amina's family perhaps. But look, it was fine. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. I just feel like if it was shorter, it would definitely have been higher. And I didn't, like I said, didn't love the narration aspect. But yeah, besides that, I had an enjoyable time and ended my 24-hour readathon. Yes, it did. So I had a good time. I had some decent books out of this. And yeah, it was pretty successful. It definitely easier to do when there's nothing else for me to do. Last time I hated it because who wants to just read for 24 hours in 2 days when you've got general life happening? But if you're stuck at home, can't do anything else, yeah, it's fine. But anyway, I will catch you for the rest of the week's books.